Okay. Anyway, so I'll just screen share. So I'm just in the client looking at champions anyway. But so in general, there are three types of team fighting champions. We can start with that. So you know much about what kind of team fighting champions there are? Like
In terms of top or other lane?
like in general, like in any lane, just in any champion, like what category of team fighting champion they are.
A lot of champions are team fighting, to be honest. Depends what you're looking.
How they want team fight is what I mean.
You can often have like front to back com, you got split push com, and also poke com. This depends on the com that what we can draft into, to be honest. But
So
most
when I say
often,
team fighting comp, usually what I mean is there's three main, to make it simple, three main ways of team fighting, like the champions. It's just poke, engage, and disengage. So it basically means like if you're playing Serath, you probably just want to poke and never ever walk into the enemies, and then when they're so low they recall, you just kill their towers, pretty much. You know, AP Shaco would be a good example of disengage because he only is useful if the enemies run into his boxes. You know, and someone like Malphite would be a good example of an engage, because if you don't engage, then he can only spam Q, which doesn't really do any damage if he's tank. So he only really wants to engage. That's also why he has his ultimate. So that's to simplify it. Of course, there's more things about if you want a front-to-back team fight or if you want a chaotic team fight, so on. But in general, you should like think about putting this together based on the enemy comp too. So like if you're playing against a poke comp, you should have something that is easy to engage with. For example, then you can pick Malphite. So if the enemy has a good poke comp and you don't have someone that is actually good at engaging, it's very hard for you to win the game if the enemies just poke you. Because, for example, let's say you play Cho'Gath, it's very, very hard to actually get onto the enemies by yourself, because you need to land a Q, which enemies are probably not dumb enough to stand within your like Q range for multiple seconds. Or Viego or Gwen, they can't engage by themselves. They need someone else to do it for them to be useful. Like if Viego runs alone, his W range just isn't big enough.
Mm-hmm.
Unless he ults first, in which case he's useless, or at least a lot less useful. So the point is that if you're gonna engage onto the enemy team based on the champions, you need often the top laner to have some good engage tool. It can also be the support, most often one of those. They have most CC, in general. So and there's the other comp that's more poke disengage. That the comp you've probably seen it heard of before.
Yep.
You just basically go a lot of enchanters. So it's like, imagine Zed wanting to engage, paired with the Seraphine, who I can tell you wants to disengage, except for her ult, which can kind of follow up. So it would probably not fit that well together, because Zed runs into the enemies while Seraphine wants to stay grouped so her W can heal the whole team. So unless you get a good ult, then it's very, very bad synergy in general, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So then you would want someone like Senna instead of Zed. Like, it's a weird comparing, an AAC to an assassin, but still, because Senna likes long fights. Or she's kind of bursty, but still she does like long fights because we're high range. So she's more poke. And since she's an AAC, if you can keep auto attacking, you deal more damage over time than someone who just uses all their abilities. So that's why, for example, the Senna Seraphine combo exists, because they both like to do exactly the same in team fighting, staying at a high range and just staying grouped together. So that's also why Samira hates enchanters, because she does not want to stay with the enchanter. She just wants to run in and one-shot everyone. Mm-hmm. So, like, in general, this is what you want to build your team comp around. So, for example, if you play ARAM, if you remember the ARAM Clash thing that was some time ago.
Mm-hmm.
Like I played it myself, and we won it big time only because of the drafts, which I did make for the team, and it was like so big champion difference. Like so drafts just mean very much if it's only team fighting. Just this concept alone, pretty much. Then there's also a lot of other stuff with how things synergize. Like if you were playing, let's say, enemy plays Karthus, right? You probably want to invade him early on. So if you then have lanes that cannot like help your jungler invade him, then that's probably a negative thing. But if you have good wave clear ADC and support, like let's say you have I don't know, Bard plus Sivir bot, that would probably be fine. Sivir one-shots waves, and Bard can then come and help you like invade very easily. So I don't know if those champions synergize very well. I would assume they kind of do because you know they both like to let the enemy run into them. Usually, unless Bard's roaming, but he usually doesn't do that much in the late game. So Bard doesn't like to engage because he doesn't have any dashes. So if he eases into the enemy, they'll just see him coming like a few seconds before. This explanation, but I would like to. Other than that, like the basic thing that about team fighting is just those three things, pretty much. So if you look at like let's say you have 3 champions who like to engage, and one I don't know who likes to poke and one who likes to disengage versus 5 enemies who want to engage, you would probably consider not engaging even though or more than half of your team's champions want to do that, or else they'll be useless. Because if you can disengage well enough for the enemies to not be able to engage, then your poke and disengage would do a huge difference, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So the enemies don't have any reliable, like then everyone would just be revolving, like playing around you. And that's very often where I've actually had that problem before with a team I coached before. Like, if the jungler was like Iron, there would probably like won multiple games where I made a draft built around the enemies having no real engage. It's just the idea of the jungler engaged way too much because they thought it was a good opportunity. And I myself can say it's kind of hard sometimes just staring and doing nothing and ignoring like 3-man, 4-man ults to play around your team. But it's only in certain scenarios where if you get the correct team comp, it's just over from draft. If the enemies have no way of engaging and you have a poke. I've tried it before, it's like very, very OP, even in solo queue. So draft can do a big difference. If you look at them, then you also want to see, number 1, you probably shouldn't have champions who impact the map a lot to have the same type of damage. For example, if you have your ADC in top as AD and mid and jungle as support, that's fine if it's a good comp, but in general you would rather have like, I don't know, top and mid as AD and jungle ADC as AP, because that would make it harder for the enemies to build, to, you know, stop you from damaging them, because any mid laner can then go sword shoots compared to if you're more mixed damage in general. But that's a smaller thing, but just like you want to, for lane phase at least, specifically if you're early game champion, you kind of want to spread your damage around a bit. I mean, that's just a detail mainly, but I would like. Just like I gotta think about how I say it.
What do you mean, sorry?
Yeah, I just gotta think about how the words I'm gonna use.
I mean, currently, I think we sort of play some few games. I think the play-ins, they call it play-ins in the league. Basically, not started yet. It's called play-ins. We didn't do really well, and we got quite a few issues. One being the draft. Second being the mid game is the also warding, also another issue. But the mid game quietness is what kills us sometimes. Why I say quietness is like people are afraid to make things happen in terms of like support, jungle, even mid. We just afraid. Also, we don't play team fight correctly in a way. So
yeah, you communicate more is what you need to do.
yeah, communication is one big thing. But is what we've been trying to work on. But I think we work on it a few weeks now, but it's not really gel. It's almost feel like we have to change the play style in a way that suits everybody's strength. Because like we're having a support that engage, but he can do very well in the early game, making plays, and then when it comes to mid game, he's gone quiet. He's gone very quiet. For me, I never switch off playing jungle. I always try to make plays. But in terms of other jungle add-in, the support and add-in is like struggling to find synergy between the team, I feel. But we all try to work on the engage power of our side. But what I've seen so far in the league, every team's playing high, front to back most of the time, and also looking at team fighting a lot more. So I don't know whether to draft. If you want to think about drafting, you want to do something with what we have about disengage, or is there other way that we can make this work within our team?
Oh, yeah, we can start with those three things I mentioned. They can help you in team fighting in general, but it is simplifying. Like, of course, there's more to it, or else there wouldn't be professionals getting paid to make pro players team graph. So, I think I know how to say it now. So, there are also two ways how the team fight can play out. Like, one is how you want to team fight, like what you're good at. If you're good at the enemies run into you, if you're good at running into the enemies or just poking. The second one is like how the team fight can actually play out. So it can either like be front to back or chaotic. In other words, so if you look at it. Chaotic is usually what bruisers like. So then a thought that might come to mind is like, why is there then bruisers in the jungle? Like jungle often team fights because they need to get objectives to smite them. And you need to look at what junglers are actually bruisers. Like if you look at number one, let's start with Hecarim. His ult fears guaranteed engage and fears enemies to ideally different size. So you can create a chaotic team fight just with his ult, making people without wanting to run different directions. So like the point is that if you then look at a top lane bruiser like Darius, he does not have anything at all like that that can create a chaotic team fight. That's why he's a top laner, so he doesn't actually have to join the team fights. That's the point of like you can already by that see how being able to create a chaotic team fight is pretty much a necessity if you're going to team fight like as a bruiser who only mainly likes that style, or like Graves who uses the near sight. Can help him do that. Or Jarvan, with his just ult, but he's mainly a tank. You see like Lee just kicks people into his team or. Like out for 1v1, so on. So the point is they all have some kind of tool to create a chaotic team fight. Now, often this is all Rengar not too much, but he's more of an assassin. I think you get my point. So like in general, you want to see if your team would rather have a chaotic or front to back team fight. So this depends on multiple things. You can look at number one, how fed your bot laner is. If your bot is 10-0, enemy is 0-10, you probably want to front to back. Just play around your ADC. Like number two, the champions you have. If you have an enchanter, you probably want to front to back. If you have an engaged support, like something like Mundo would rather front to back. Something like let's see. Generally a tank and top lane would rather front to back. Mono would rather chaotic team fight, that's what I meant. So you can look at what champions you have on your team, Like if you have an Ezreal ADC, you can move front to back because he can fend for himself. If you have a mobile carries, you probably want to protect them. Like you want to actually look at these things, or if you engage in the enemy's backline, can anyone actually follow up? Like if you have a Cho'Gath, he's really good if someone else engages. But if you don't have if you have someone like an Malphite, he's not as good if someone else engages. He's just good at engaging himself. So, or if he was as good at following up his engages, he would just Cho'Gath wouldn't be a champion because it wouldn't be unfair if you're good at both creating an engage and as good as following up an engage as someone else who's worse at creating an engage. So anyway, you want to look at the comp versus the enemy's comp, and then thirdly you want to like see if you're ahead or behind in general. Like this is just a smaller thing, but if you're behind, you might like your top laner might outplay the enemy ADC 1v1 and get a 1k bouncy. It's just my personal thing I did. I have no idea if no one else better than me approves of it. Like, but
I mean,
it's just in general what I would say.
Since we're playing Scrim with the main roster, which is, if you see on the sheet, you can see most of our champ pool is there. What can you think that suit us? What kind of playstyle you think we are?
Okay, everyone has engaged champions. So that takes me 1 second to see. So we can start with everyone has champions who engage is your problem. I can start with that. So you have Ornn, Jarvan, and Rakan, 3 champions who engage, but no one to follow up on your engage. So if you have someone who follows up and I forgot the red S here. Yeah, never mind then. I'll just
Mundo. Let me tell you the roster today. Mundo, me, Aeon, Amiet, and Chief playing tonight.
So I think you want to look at
Let me highlight it for you so you know which one.
So first, control mages. They like front to back team fighting. I can say that like controlling a zone doesn't do much when everyone's random places, but controlling a zone is a huge difference if everyone is in a team and they putting off half the ADC's potential escape path does much more if he's the important person in the fight. If that makes sense. Because if you just abandon your ADC to go for the enemies, then your ADC will die, and it doesn't really matter so much you cut off like some of his escape path. So mid lane is more disengage poke style, except for Akali, Jace. These champions fit with engaging. These are more disengaging, and then these I can say them. Your champion will definitely want someone else to engage first. Because like Wukong, if he can save his W, if he does not have to W to engage, unless you have like a very good engage. If he doesn't have to W, he can easier reposition and land his ult on more people. If he can E and then W. So ideally, someone else should engage, and then you can follow up, and it's very, very strong. Viego obviously has no engage by himself unless he ults first, which is usually not a good idea because he only has 1 dash. It's his ult, and it's also anti-CC. So it's, if you use it at the correct time, it's like a free cleanse. Nocturne also likes someone else to engage. He loves if someone else creates a chaotic team fight. He's so good because you can just go on the enemy ADC and the enemies won't even know that you're going for the ADC because they're nearsighted. But if they're together, packed together like front to back, that they won't be able to see that you're going. That they will be able to see because the ADC is within vision range. So if you have like someone else, like if you could have Hecarim ult. And it would be very, very good with Nocturne. Of course, they're both junglers, but yeah. So he's also very good with side laners. So that would really depend on your top laner's champion pool, too. So top laner, yeah, this champion pool is unusual, I would say. But it still does kind of make sense. You play tanks and you play champions who counter tanks. So I think definitely you need some more AP in your team comp. You seem to have very little AP, and if you have a full engage comp and your only AP is disengage poke, then they're not going to be too useful. So already I can see like you need some AP. I don't know what ADC plays, but we can look. So I think if I should just make a good comp from this, I would say Malphite. First,
Actually, ignore the Shiro because he's not playing today. I'm more interested in like Mundo.
Mundo. Okay, yeah. So I'll just take it. So from this, 3 champions who want someone else to engage, 3 champions who want someone else to engage. So you're relying a lot on your support. Thresh likes to engage. His W obviously pulls someone else to his engage. So Amumu likes to engage, and Nautilus likes to engage, especially his ult. So that fits really well. Verkanus can disengage his E. If someone else engages, he can E to them, but and then follow up. But he can also do a lot of his own bronze, he's saying W's to people. He's pretty much disengaged with his shield. But yeah. So these 3 fit with your team comp. You should probably pick one of those. For mid laners, I would say like depending on what the AC plays, let's just assume he's playing his standard marksman. I would say like Nautilus, just because he's the. I don't mean to say this in the incorrect way, but unskilled. As in, if you misplay, your team comp's not built around you being the only engage. So Nautilus ult cannot really miss, but if you miss as a Mumu, then you might give the enemies enough time to then poke you down. But Malphite ult guaranteed to land, pretty much. So that was why I suggested him first. So Nautilus, I would say Wukong then, because he likes to follow up. And here, I would say Mordekaiser. He likes chaotic teamfight, he just ults one enemy away from the fight. And then definitely Akali. So here, Wukong, Morde, Akali, not. That would be my draft from these.
Say again, so Wukong?
Yeah, Wukong, Mordekaiser, Akali, Nautilus. If I should just make a random one from this. Of course, like, you don't place champions into certain comps or whatever, but
what ADC would you pair that with?
ADC, I don't know what ADC plays, but in general, someone who can follow up. So let's say number 1, an ADC can fend for himself. Again, that was what I talked about with the chaotic team fight. If you go for a chaotic team fight, you probably want an ADC who can fend for himself.
What, Kai'Sa? Maybe Kai'Sa?
Kai'Sa is Samira would actually fit very well. Actually, now I think about it.
What would you ban if you want to play that?
I think Kai'Sa's too immobile in my opinion, but Kalista would be good, but you're not pro players. Samira, just very good. Like, if you look at it, AoE CC will come up. Like, I don't play much Samira myself, but I can imagine that if AoE CC is better with Samira than not, because, AoE damage is better, you can say, but getting enemies low isn't always as good as killing one enemy. Single target damage is generally better, if you get all the enemies to 80% health, or if you kill one enemy, big difference, right? So AoE damage is weaker. So if you have enough of it though, then you will get enemies down to 70% health instead of killing one. Then if you have enough, then in total it would kill all the enemies, in theory at least. This might be wrong from theory perspective, but
so what actually, like, in terms of this, like what you drafted, right? What kind of bans like priority bans in what we play?
And like I'll just start with
I assume you want to ban Caitlyn, right? You want to ban Caitlyn, surely, because your range is very short.
I would look at, so definitely if I'm supposed to ban ADCs, enemies, I'll ban an ADC that's very good when enemies run into you. So I can actually stay at a far distance and still be useful. So Varus would be kind of a problem, because if you're always going to engage onto him, then his ult will be much easier compared to Mordekaiser ult to support, and then you would go on him. Then it's much easier if he does not have ult to CC for himself. So I would say this just could be banned. So if Aphelios, Ezreal, Varus, maybe Lucian, Tristana, if I should say 5.
I mean, not just ADC. I mean, you can look in a general perspective.
Oh, in a general perspective, someone who wants the enemy to engage. But there are so many disengaged champions that if the enemy picks those, you probably should not pick this comp. But if I should just come with some, Anivia, let's see, who would be some of the worst ones? Let's see. Champions with CC, because if the whole enemy team has CC, then it's really hard to Mordekaiser ult. Like the one main with CC cancels him ult.
So you want to ban Aurelion? So he's got the hardest CC in the game right now, no?
I don't know. There are just many champions in the league with CC. So I think you should also look at what counters the champions you're playing. What champions do the enemy play? If you're allowed to look at that before the game. I think counter picks matter a lot. Like this comp I just made because if you look at it from other perspectives, like Mordekaiser should ult someone who can CC Samira. That's number one. Number two, Wukong, Nautilus likes to engage. Wukong, almost good engager, but he's just a bit better if someone else engages. But he's just still it's kind of like preparing other people to engage, but you can prepare more effectively if someone else is already engaged. Complicated way of saying it's basically like Nautilus prepares for Wukong, but Wukong just prepares more effectively than Nautilus, but he needs someone else to prepare first. Yeah, complicated way of saying it. I hope you understand.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, he delivers more CC than Nautilus, but Nautilus has an easier time landing his CC in the first place.
Because to be fair, I want the team to get into a habit of thinking. For Scream, for example, right? You want to go into the Scream and actually practice what we want to play and ban towards what we do not want to play again and see how we play those comps. So that's the reason why I asked you why we should ban in certain champion that will be disruptor to our comp. Because the whole point of Scream is to get a value out of that. At the moment, we can't gel with the comp. We need to try as many comp as possible and find out what we're good at, in a way. Like I said to you, people draft solo queue. I think in the past, for example, on the weekends, people draft what they're comfortable playing. I don't think it works in team environment. They need to start to draft around what fits in what purposes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I just think in general it's important to know why draft is good, not just as good to be able to recreate something similar in the future. That's going over. I'll try to do it quick if you want, by the way. Anyway, it just fits the way if you look at top and mid. Mid doesn't really get prio. Top more they spike at the same time. Wukong does not want to fight until one item. Akali, more of a scaling assassin, but she can all in at level 6. Wukong also has level 6 spike. Mordekaiser also has level 6 spike. Samira also has level 6 spike. And if Nautilus has someone else that can follow up and disengage, he also has level 6 spike, which Wukong can do. So everyone has 6 spikes. Samira and Nautilus have level 2 spike also. Nautilus does level 3 a bit better, but it's still fine level 2. So the bot is fine, the champions should synergize in general. And mid-jungle is a good combo because in the early game, enemies will be within your E range, which means that you don't need Nautilus to engage. Which means you're pretty much better than a Nautilus at engaging since there's not 5 enemies to CC you. So you don't need to W first. So you can just CC, which means, you can catch enemies from super far away. Just W, E, ult, and CC them barely for long enough for Kali ult. Because the Kali ult is a tiny bit shorter than your WE engage, so if you just CC them for 1 second with ult, it will be fine. And if you look at it again, the damage is spread out. Top laner and mid laner's AP, there's not there's not any enemy who's only going to fight your top and mid. So if enemy mid builds MR, then they're going to have to deal with you, the jungler, dealing 80 damage. Damage spread out there's just a lot of good things about what I've talked earlier that fit this comp. And if anyone ever side lanes, yeah, you're gonna beat them really hard. So you like finding picks with Nautilus too. So I would see this comp as a very good comp. Personally.
Can try it tonight. It's no problem. It's good to try different things.
Okay. So. Okay. Any more you want to know with draft for now?
Can you do me two more drafts? Just in case they ban out from the first one, and I can try different things.
So I should do a second draft?
Yeah, second, or if you can give me 2 more, that'd be helpful.
Okay, so 3 drafts in total. Okay.
Can we do something with Pantheon? Because this is what he's good at.
Yeah, of course. Pantheon, and that also fits the mid lane champions, kinda, a bit more.
I mean,
Pantheon
I'm open to learn any AP jungle, so it's not a problem.
Okay. Also, you can play with Ari instead of Akali, actually, in this case, if he's better at Ari. I just thought of that now. Pantheon,
Ari, you say, on this call?
yeah, Ari instead of Akali, it could be like the kind of the same style with a lot of dashes, hard to get. So when Wukong is wanting to reach his Divine Sun during Power Spike, you're not going to have a feeding mid laner at the time you reach it. Because Akali has Shroud, Ari has W, move speed, and ult. So, let's see, Pantheon, at least pretty much a high tempo game. Yeah. I'm not even sure Orianna's good actually. I don't usually play her. She might be good with an engaged comp where she can E a teammate and then ult. So you could also consider that in general, but I don't really know too much about her.
Don't worry about how they feel. Just draft what you think is good, because I want them to try things.
Okay. So at least let's see, Orianna, Kog'Maw, and Thresh. So start with bot lane. Thresh can W Kog'Maw. He's mobile as well. The team wants to engage. Most of them, Orianna likes following up and then engage. Kog'Maw, needs to fend for himself. He can do that with high W range, auto range, with alt range too a bit. Kog'Maw half AP, half AD. Orianna AP, only one he can build. Yeah.
Is there any other ADC can fit that? Because I don't think he played Kog'Maw. I don't think so. I haven't seen him.
Oh yeah, I did. Yeah, he didn't ready champion rule. Yeah, that was why. I just said like some ADC who's mobile but deals high damage. Like also, no one can kill tanks except for Kog'Maw. So Vayne would actually be very Vayne instead of Kog'Maw. You just need someone to kill tanks. Like in this everyone kills. Like Wukong kills tanks, Morty kills tanks. Aura deals more DPS than normal assassins. Similar, not the most, but you already have enough with those. It just deals more damage over time. ADC in general. So that would also be a fine comp. Let's see. And here, we can take a Cho'Gath one. Abumu. So these longer fights. This comp's more of a kill enemies fast, immediately. Wukong ults in. He wants to kill enemies within 5 seconds because after his ults run out, his W is not on a low cooldown. His E is not on a low cooldown, so he's kind of immobile. So you ideally want to kill enemies fast, or just kill most of the enemies, and then after that you could just use Divine Thunder healing to win 1v2, 1v3, if that's like the scenario that's left with you. So, as long as there's or just a chaotic team fight, because most of the enemies are fighting in another place, or running away, or, dead. So, you just need a comp who can actually help him within 5 seconds. This comp is much more slow. Amumu can CC for like 5 seconds at a time, if you like Q and Alt and Q. And with so long CC, Cho'Gath has a bunch of time to slowly run up to the enemy, and like presses. Ideally, if you have good synergy, presses Q in the middle of Amumu's comp, just to make his Q come up a bit faster. Amumu's Q and Cho'Gath being able to Q 2 times, but that's just like instead of Amumu Q Alt Q then Cho'Gath Q, just Amumu Q Cho'Gath Q then Amumu Alt Amumu Q. Or max. Just makes it so Cho'Gath Q might come up at the end of that, and Amumu Q might come up, again at the end of that. But that's a more complicated thing. Anyway, Amumu, my bad. Cho'Gath, Amumu. Let's see. You would, Victor would be fine here. They also like slow fights more than others, like the control mates. This is more of a disengagey comp, not as much as a run in and kill people here, like within short duration. So let's see. Here, Viego. No, I'm not sure about Nocturne. If he's maybe too short fight, kinda, because he only has one alt dash, and then he kinda has to kill the enemy or die, because he cannot stick onto them, kinda like Wukong, except much worse than Wukong at sticking onto them. So he doesn't really like to 1v2 or 1v3 after the initial fight. No, Victor, not Victor, Viego, let's see, and as ADC, I don't even know what he plays still. I'll just look in general what ADCs fit. Yeah, Saya would be fine with this comp. Because you do have very good peel. Cho'Gath is basically the reason you can peel for Viego, Victor, and Saya. So, versus an enemy team with good engage, you do not play this comp. Only if the enemies have, like, not the best engage. Kind of. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, basically, this is kill people in 5 seconds. This is wobble combo a bit more, like, at least wants to play from out of vision, Pantheon wants to ult from out of vision, and Thresh, coming, like, unexpectedly as 5 and seeing them more. This is best versus squishies, this is best versus tags, and this is best versus mixed squishies and tags who don't have the best engage, pretty much. So, I think that's that's it. So this is like really mixed with Amumu doesn't like to disengage, but more like Amumu CCing enemies. I don't play much Amumu support, but I assume he can be good at disengaging if there's someone like ignoring him running to your ADC, like Singed, who doesn't just ult to them. Then he could be a good disengager. So as long as it's someone who has to kind of run to your ADC, then he could be a fine disengager. So if you're versus Ares as their main engage, then it would be fine that they have good engage. Or whatever. Ares isn't even good engage, but yeah, whatever. So yeah, I think that's the comps.
Cool, thank you anyway. I will bear that in mind when I'm batting tonight.
Okay. Also, if you want to do any coaching today, I actually have some time. As a team.
Team coaching?
Yeah, before the scrim.
I want to see how they play at first, and probably you can coach after.
After the scrim?
Yeah, after the scrim.
Okay. I don't think I have time there though. But yeah,
Maybe
we'll
after
do tomorrow,
one game.
maybe.
Tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow probably better because it's a new concept for them.
What's the new concept?
Because we have a previous coach that wanted us to play one direction of the game. We don't really have flexibility. Now we have more flexibility now. Everything is changing, so we're starting a new play style almost. The previous coach that really makes us just play for one direction, only for bot lane, doesn't really help us in the team. So we decided to change coach in a way. So that's why we give you a go. Try your things out, try your direction, see whether we will improve as a team.
Yeah. If you want to play for top side, let's see.
Top side is the
Pantheon's Lease is good playing for top side. This one, wait. Yeah, the Cho'Gath and a Mumu comp is good for playing for bot side.
I'll look at them in more of a side because I think the Cho'Gath and Mumu one is more of a blue side comp.
It's just simple tank. If there's two tanks who go to top lane, they just die to a bruiser 2v1. So they just CC forever and burst him down.
Yeah. In terms of the front, I think the first two comp they drop, I think it's more of a red side comp to be honest.
I deleted the first thing I wrote by mistake. I'll just write it again. My bad. But yeah.
Mordekaiser, isn't it? Mordekaiser and...
Yeah, I remember the modern word.
Mordekaiser, Wukong, and Akali, Ari.
Oh, and Lusamira. But yeah. So, and this one is, Wukong doesn't really, you can like ganks all lanes or no lanes, so that makes sense. Yeah, depending on the wave state. And usually as a jungler you want to focus on a smaller amount of lanes. Because if you're already ahead in the lane, it's easier to gank them. But yeah. I guess that's mixed and top side and bot side helped pretty much.
Cool, anyway, thank you anyway. I'll give you a go and maybe we speak tomorrow about the review.
Yeah.
I'll post it on YouTube and we can discuss it also.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you for your time.
Yeah. See you.
See ya.